Scott and Mitch, you know, I think, Scott, you had mentioned market disruption. What do you mean by that? How does that work? Can you give us a story, something we can relate to?
Yeah. Well, from a valuation standpoint, getting buy-in into our fleet evaluator and VIP tool wasn't easy to start with. There was a lot of dealerships that have generations of families that had run these dealerships, and they pride themselves on being able to find the right values out here. However, data is so powerful to a lot of these companies out here that they really needed to use something, as I mentioned in a previous segment, unemotional, where they can go in and really put values on that. So, in order to convince the dealer group early on, what I had done is I had attended some conferences that were built around some larger auctions. And within those auctions, I would be presenting on our valuation tools and the data and kind of the background of that. And in order to convince people, I decided to take a group of 400 or 500 units and list them out on a hard copy sheet and put a total value of what they'll transact for in the following couple of days. And while I'm giving this presentation, I'd have people walking through the aisles actually handing out these hard copies of here's what you're going to be looking at in the next few days. Here's the values on them, and here's the total values for what it's going to transact for. Now, at any given time, something can sell for 10 or 15% higher or 10 or 15% lower in an auction. But the mean number is really what we look at, and that's the real consistent thing in the marketplace. So once the auction had ended, I followed back up with everybody that I had from the registration list, and I said, here's what they actually transacted for. And I think in this particular example, we had our valuation tool had placed the number at about $26.8 million, and we came in at about 26.850. So we missed it by $50,000 over the course of that. Now that may seem unique and a little bit exciting for a lot of people, but at the end of the day, we test that information every week. So we go through every segment, whether it's excavators, dozers, skid steers in the construction industry, or sleepers, box vans, dry van trailers in the truck industry, or combines, tractors, tillers, planting equipment. We test all of that every week in every one of our segments back to see the transactions that are happening in the marketplace today. And we run it through our system to see what our prediction tool has it at today. And then we basically test off of that to make sure we're within like a very close to a 1% error on everything that we do.
I mean, if you think about that, how does that translate directly to the equipment leasing industry day to day, where we've got numerous independent lessors and bank lessors who are transacting deals or also managing their existing portfolio and trying to determine, should we just let the transaction go as is all the way to the end, or maybe you got 10 months left, do we go in and make a better offer to the customer because we can get a better residual value by taking it back?
When it comes to that, I think it's very important, and we heard a lot of feedback, at the ELFA conference, with just knowing real-time values. So whether it's on the front side or if it's right in the middle of a lease or at the end of lease, at any given point you can look at an entire portfolio and see what the real-time value is. As Scott talked about, we update in real time because today's sales affects tomorrow's values, and so you can in real time, looking at whether it's an individual asset or an entire portfolio, from a specific customer, what is that? What is it? What is everything worth? And that's where it's really, hugely important, because we do collect this, in real time, and because it naturally, organically flows through us because of our place in the marketplace. We don't have to go out and try to gather data to get it into our system. It's naturally there all the time.
Okay. There was something else you had mentioned. I think we had talked about whether it was on this call so far or not. But as far as lessors, sometimes we put in a lease transaction a description of the equipment. Well, we do put the description of the equipment, and in some cases, we just put the highlight, one John Deere model XYZ, but we don't go any deeper than that. should we? Because you mentioned about different values for different pieces of equipment might be the same one.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is dealers, or excuse me, finance companies don't know the questions to ask in some cases. So we help uh, lead the finance companies to what we call the needle movers in terms of values out there, and certain things to collect. So like you had mentioned, Bob, like year, make, model, miles, or hours are usually what we get out there. Now we've got a lot of effort into AI and serial number and VIN cleansing and different things that can pull a lot of information out. But as an example, in a truck, we'd want to know beyond the top information of year, make, model, and miles. We'd want to know engine and horsepower, and if it's got a wet kit, if it's a tandem axle or a triaxle. But there's a lot of different information that we can collect there. So helping finance companies ask the right questions and understand what they can collect. And a lot of that we saw at several of the shows, there's a lot of technology, especially that's mutual technology that's used across the finance space, where we can help those guys collect that information and get that in. Now, it's not necessary to have it at the very start. We can still give you a pretty good average of what that asset's worth. And we know if it's a particular model, we have a pretty good idea that 89% of them are equipped this way, and we can help you and show you what those values are. But certainly we give everybody the chance to adjust anything. If it happened to be instead of a 450 horsepower, it's a 5.25. That's a big value difference, and we can help collect that information.
So, all right, follow-on question to that real quick. If I'm assuming you have access to most of the manufacturer's data, so if somebody gives you the serial number of the particular unit and you talk about cleansing the data, are you able to give a better, deeper dive based on the serial number, how that particular unit was configured from the manufacturer?
Yeah, some of it comes from the manufacturer, and really some of it comes to us via AI opportunities that we have. When you collect as many serial numbers and VINs as we do, and you can see historically how those are equipped out there, we can even start to pull out a serial number decoding and VIN decoding out of our own platform. Now, we like to work with manufacturers and pull all that information out. We do work with a large amount of them, but that information is, for us, becomes pretty second nature to us, especially at this point, being professionals in these industries. Also, bear in mind, I'd say a strong 98% of all franchised dealers that are represented by an OEM work with us today. So we have all that information coming in from all of our partners that we do business with to help them buy and sell assets.
So I guess the following question with that is that for lessors, it makes sense for them to, as many of them as possible, to partner up with you just to clean their own data when they do have a unit for sale or default or repossession, to take their data, send it up to you and confirm serial number, VIN number, make sure it actually is configured the way they show it on the information they have.
Yeah, I mean, we have a substantial make and model depot within our platform out there. We've got over 1 million make model combinations that fit with the category of equipment out there. So starting from a baseline, that was a substantial job where we've worked on for since we started in this business.
78.
Yeah, and it's still every day there's new models coming out. There's things in the electric vehicle market that are starting to come in different details. So we know what to collect, and we have all the information to test that back to see what components add values, and then make sure those are at the top of the list. But serial number and VIN is a good way to start. We're a turnkey solution for a lot of companies out here that don't have access to a lot of that. So especially in the finance industry, we find that it's a little bit more prevalent there. So
Okay. No, that's helpful. Thank you.